Oh, hi guys, welcome to the latest episode of Cricket Draft Insight. I just wanted to talk about an excellent piece of wicket keeping that happened in the Ashes Test yesterday. Moving on to player values, that was something I wanted to discuss. Tom Smith and Ben Green are a couple of players that are in my team, and their values have both gone from about 78k to approaching 100k. And it's just got me thinking, what happens next year? I played the game last year and I wasn't on Twitter or anything. I wasn't doing the YouTube channel. So I'm picking my team, a few things going on in my head. But a lot of that's faded from memory. This year, I'm obviously engrossed and writing a lot of things down, following things a bit more closely. And I just wonder, so the budget tends to be 1.5 million in the games. But what's going to happen? Most players they go up in price. They go up quite reasonably. So are the player prices going to be sort of reset, lowered? I mean, Ben Green, now merits being a better value player. I'd assume, to have a sort of budget of 1.6, 1.75 million, maybe that's a bit weird. So I'm just not sure what happens next year. Player prices, they seem to go up more significantly than they go down, I think. So I just wonder what that means for the future for next year. And obviously, given my performances this year, I've long been looking forward to next year, using this year as an opportunity to learn. I noticed in the county championship game, so Mitchell Swepson was 127k. Now he had a good first game. I think he took 7 wickets. He bowled a lot of maidens, but he went up to 160k. And I must admit, I was tempted to ask if that was a mistake. But obviously, I'm used to looking at the other end of the spectrum, the really cheap players. I don't know if there is some kind of like value boost for being, for having the most points per game. Obviously, you played that one game, but he's got the most points per game, so maybe that provides some sort of boost. I'm not sure, but that seemed like an extreme rise because that's about 20%. So yeah, I'm just interested to know, what happens next year. A couple of people inquired about the value of players. And I know pre-season Cricket Drafted, they mentioned something about like percentage selection having an effect and how it could have a little effect on like movement up or down. I think sort of during in between the games. So I don't know if it's as simple as like you earn so many points, you move so many thousand. I'm not sure if it's as straightforward as that. I'm just thinking, if most of the players are going up in value, would that make 1.5 million a tougher budget next year? And obviously, the budget has to be tough to some extent. I just wonder, what it means for player prices and the budget and how they then amend or what they do next year. Anyway, moving on. My T20 Blast team. So it's the quarterfinals, of course. I mentioned before, if I've understood correctly, we don't get to do any more free transfers. I personally think they could have allowed us to do maybe a couple more free transfers, but of course, well done to you if you've managed your squad in a way to make sure you've got players in the quarterfinals. But then also, I feel like that maybe eliminates selecting players from a few teams for a few rounds prior. Now, I did bring 2 players I brought in specifically in the last round were Ben Green and Dan Mosley. I may have mentioned this in my last video because Somerset and Birmingham, Warwickshire, look set to go through. Ben Green slightly fallen off a cliff, and Dan Mosley, I think, might even be injured. So fingers crossed he's not. Ben Green, I did watch the Somerset Kent game, and obviously Lewis Gregory's back. And I mentioned before about Green, maybe get the ball at the death, take some cheap wickets, but then Lewis Gregory was captain, and Green obviously didn't do too well. And Gregory made sure that he was bowling at the end. But got those players in my team, and I have cobbled together a squad. But I've kind of done what I'd messed up with in the county championship, essentially, which is I've just now got a massive squad, half of which is irrelevant, and I've got a lot of cheap players. Now, it may be that some of these players are going to perform. I've got Michael Pepper, who's done very well. Got one or two others. It's weird because my team kind of doesn't feel like my team because it's almost completely new. People like Gus Atkinson, Matthew Carter. So it's fortunate I'm still able to get, fingers crossed, just about 11 players on the pitch in the value, and hopefully, maybe some of those players aren't in that many people's teams. So if I get some points, it's points that maybe other people aren't getting. But admittedly, I don't have many of the big names. I go all the way back to the start of the season. Daniel Sams, I think, is a player I would have had. But Essex, the first week they didn't play, and there were teams playing 2-3 times in the next week. So I never ended up with Daniel Sams in my team. And there was a point where I thought, well, surely I should spend 50 points to get a good player in. But I was back to this mentality, despite my county championship debacle, of not spending points on transfers, which I haven't done until this week, the quarterfinals. And then, of course, we can make some more transfers and more free transfers for finals day. Obviously, I found myself making a few transfers, paying for them in the county championship. I've always said this year, I've never spent points on transfers. I've never spent points on transfers. And then I started doing it. It was 2 weeks, 150 points each in the county championship. But I look back now and I think, what did I? Surely I must have spent points on transfers in the T20 Blast last year. Because how would I have had players in the latter stages, in the knockouts, and finished so high? This year, I just hoped it would fall into place, and get sort of half my players through. And I just didn't. I ended up with about 4 players in the quarterfinal. So that's a lesson learned. Manage it better in the future, and that's what I've said about this year. Disappointed, I'm not doing as well, but learn from it, do better in the future, and still room for optimism that I can climb the table a bit. Ryan Higgins was player of the week, a regular player in my county championship squad, often captain, not a player I've really considered for T20 cricket. I don't think people immediately associate him as a T20 cricketer. And his record is so-so, but I actually think, it might seem a bit old-fashioned, but I think his batting average is higher than his bowling average. The economy is 9, it was 9.5 region expensive. He has been expensive at times this year, but he took some wickets in this round and he hit 2 rapid half-centuries, including a number of sixes. I think only about 6 career half-centuries, but, Gloucestershire, he was at Gloucestershire, probably in that 6, maybe even 7, 8 at times region, back in the day. And he's gone a little bit up the order, I think, and it's starting to come together. He is obviously a good all-round cricketer, not going to be playing again in this competition, so maybe you wouldn't have wanted him in your team. But just highlighting, I think that he is a very good cricketer across the formats. What else have I got on my list today? Yeah, so just thinking about the future. Jules was mentioned. I think there was an email. I can speculate how that works. So I haven't played. Forgive me for the old age comparison. Premier League football. I think in fantasy Premier League football, there's a knockout thing. Obviously, you're on one big league table, and you're also in a knockout. So 1 week, there's a massive knockout, and 1 week you just pitched against someone, and the person who gets the most points goes through. It's like a knockout, like FA Cup type thing. I'm assuming this is going to be along those lines. I'm hoping maybe we could do like custom invitational, like I could invite 15 of you, and then over the course of a few weeks we could have a knockout down to a final. I'm speculating could be something like that, but I could be completely wrong. Just knocked my piece of paper over. I had something else on that. Oh yes. So when on my stats, it says that I first played the game. I think it was the County Championship 2022. But I think Cricket Draft maybe did the IPL, and it does say Big Bash on it. And I know they didn't do the 100 last year. I'm not bothered about the IPL. I know there's a popular IPL fantasy cricket, and obviously it will clash with the English season. So I think to give the best focus to the English season, it's probably good the Cricket Draft don't do an IPL game. I personally would love the Big Bash, because me, I'm a bit left field. Nobody likes that competition, but I've managed to watch a few highlights in the time. But I don't know if it's a free-to-play fantasy game. I don't know if the amount of users we've had in the T20 Blast would make demand or worthwhile for the Big Bash. But you never know. But I was thinking the one-day World Cup. Maybe Cricket Draft. I think they did the T20 World Cup, so they might have a few that sort of set up already in terms of players. So I wondered if the one-day World Cup. Obviously, the English season stretches on quite a bit into, I think, September, nearly October. You never know, might have interest in doing doing a one-day World Cup game. Obviously, got a lot going on at the moment with the men's and women's Ashes and different formats for the women's Ashes. But yeah, thank you for watching. I just want to seize this opportunity. I'm off work today. I'd almost forgotten. It was slightly scribbled on my calendar. Unfortunately, my wife reminded me, so I have been outside. I have got some fresh air, interacted with other humans, but thought I would also seize this opportunity to put another video out there. So 1 or 2 thoughts. Hope you do well on the business end of the T20 Blast County Championship. I've gone a bit mainstream with my captaincy. I brought a big name in there, Simon Harmer. I'm sure he's in many of your teams. I know. What are you doing, Paul? You pick these, these randoms. Daniel Moriarty. I picked Simon Harmer. It might be a bit after the horse has bolted, but hopefully the rain will stay away and the pitches will still be dry, and he can do well. But lots to look forward to over the next few weeks. Like I say, the business end of the Blast, second half of the county championship. I'm optimistic I can rise up that table. I hope you do too. Thank you very much for watching. How's that?